Welcome to the Default Profitable Podcast. You're listening to the next episode, and if this is your first time, you can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, or any podcast platform you use. Today, we're going to focus on a serial entrepreneur who I've known for, 24 years. And we'll be talking about some successes, some failures, and some stories. I'm your host, Matt Nettleton, and today my guest is Mark Haubry. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Matt, good morning. Great to be with you. Always fun to have an opportunity to get together and talk, chat business, and all other things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just to full disclosure, our sons met when they were 2 weeks old at Gymboree, and we've known each other for a long time now. So this is probably one of the few podcasts I've done where it's somebody that I've known for more than 20 years. So hopefully we can keep this interesting to people without delving into stuff that's only interesting to you and I.
Right. No, I agree. Thank you.
So why don't we do this? Why don't you take 2 or 3 minutes, introduce yourself, and kind of talk about the business you're in now, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Matt. Again, my name is Mark Haubry. Matt and I have known each other for many years, Hamilton County residents many times over. And yes, I am a serial entrepreneur. It's been a great journey over the last 20 to 25 years. And I would say when you think of my businesses, my career, and some of the things I've done, it's been very nonlinear. That's the latest term, Matt, that I've learned. A nonlinear background from coming out of Purdue, focusing in operations and supply chain, migrating it over into consulting and technology optimization, and then taking off on my own, purchasing my first business, operating that business, moving back into consulting, coming back in, now owning and operating 2 businesses. It's been an exciting and fun journey. A few scars to show along the way, but a lot of excitement and some great memories.
All right, so let's talk about where you are now. And so you do primarily 2 things. You have the consulting, and then you also have the franchise business that you
That's
run.
right.
So which do you want to start with?
Why don't we start with Haubry Consulting Group? So I joke somewhat and talk about Haubry Consulting Group as the engine that enables me to drive other businesses. So went out on my own roughly 2 years ago with Haubry Consulting Group, using my 2 decades of operations and technology experience. And I work alongside business owners, sometimes small or large business owners, help them set up project management offices, focusing on technology enablement, operations improvements, PMO readiness, risk assessments, and that requires me to be on the road, take on some challenging assignments. Oftentimes I say I'm a fire jumper, because when they bring in a person like me, it's not because things are going well. It's usually because they have a major change enablement initiative on the table, or they've had one and it hasn't went well. So that's the work I do across North America.
And so if you think back, you started the business 2 years ago. You already had a lot of experience in that space. What do you wish you knew when you started that would have made your life easier?
It's always the delicate balance between, and this is not this is a cue for your operations, Matt. It's a delicate balance between operating your business on a daily basis and then being able to drive that business development as well, right? How do you keep that business development, the balance, and keep that business development engine running, especially when you're an independent, a sole proprietor, building that network and being able to capture the things you're doing and sharing them in an appropriate way so others can see who you are and the impact you're having, so you can continue to grow.
Yeah. Now, knowing that you have to talk about it all the time, and knowing that that's, I think Stephanie Daly described it as, you should not go into business unless you're willing to wake up at 3 a.m. and worry about your business. Do you have a passion for the implementation, or is it an economic opportunity?
I've learned this through the years. I'm a builder and fixer at heart. I call it a 3-step process. I enjoy jumping into a challenge, fixing that challenge, building the team to support the outcome of that long term, and then helping it grow and go forward. So I really enjoy those opportunities and the challenges, and then being able to step back. For example, a recent client now that I departed from in early July, being able to step back and see the team that I mentored, see the progress we made as a group, still get those text messages late at night, on the weekends, etc., and hear of their progress. That is so rewarding.
Yeah.
Matt, I would compare it to bringing you and I back together. Some of those kids you coached in youth sports.
Yeah.
You coach those kids, and then you're at a graduation party or you're at a varsity sports event or something, and you see them and they walk up and they don't address you as Mr. Nettleton or Matt. They say, "Hi, coach."
Yep.
And they want to tell you all the progress they've made. That is so rewarding.
Yeah, that is fun. All right. So when you look at the consulting being the engine of what you're doing, so what's the latest outcropping? What's the latest gig that you're using to build some equity?
Over the past year to 18 months, I was in an investigative process as consulting projects were moving forward. Just to answer that question, Matt, what's next? I had not owned a franchise prior, but I like the franchise model because I like the kit. I like the opportunity to step in. The organization that's developed this franchise has a blueprint for us. I was looking for something that we could bring to the Indiana market, something unique, something new, and a product or a company that is something that would relate well to me. And that surfaces Graze Craze. It's GRAZE, CRAZE, Graze Craze charcuterie board and boxes. We opened our first location January 22nd of 2024. We've been operational for the last 9.5 months. And it's been a really fun journey marketing and building the brand and bringing that to the consumers here in Indianapolis and greater Indiana market.
Okay. And so when you think about the difference between setting up Haubry Consulting, which is obviously not a franchise,
right,
to going in and opening up a franchise with essentially a ready-made cookbook of this is how we do it. What are some of the lessons that you've picked up?
The lessons I've picked up as we've went through this process goes back to my consulting experience. Oftentimes, and I take some of this from you, Matt, from some of the conversations we've had, oftentimes I'll ask a customer or a prospect, do you have standard operating procedures in place? Do you have your processes well documented, defined, and can I see them? And if the answer to those is yes, I shake their hand, maybe even high five them. They are so far ahead of so many organizations. It goes back, and I bring that back to the franchise. We still had to put those blocking and tackling steps in place. Even though the franchise provided the product, the recipes, the packaging materials, my team and I here at Graze Craze needed to develop what are our standard operating procedures? How do we want to take care of the customer? What do we want to present to the community? Yes, we have the standard shirts and hats and sweatshirts, etc. But at the end of the day, it's our team. And how do we want to represent and hold ourselves accountable?
And I think that's one of the things that's overlooked by a lot of people is when you get a franchise, even though they have the basics laid out, and they have, hey, do this, then do this, then do this for a lot of stuff. There's still so much gray area that you got to build. Very few franchises are like McDonald's where you walk in and everything's defined.
Right.
It might be 70 or 80%. It might be 60%. You still got to build you.
That is so true. And that's an early wake up call for myself, any of your listeners, and anyone else considering, right? When you go into business, the great thing, Matt, as you well know, the great thing is when you wake up in the morning, you have this wonderful freedom and ability to change the color of the shirt, change the start times of the store. However, at the same time, you have this amazing ownership and responsibility to make those decisions. For example, corporate might recommend that the stores open for a certain hours of the day.
Yeah.
You need to learn the data and the sales trends in your customers. When do your customers really want you to be open?
Right.
When's the best marketability opportunity for your products? How do you want to market those? And what's the best path for those to be received in the marketplace? No one really has all the answers. So you need to treat it like we often do in a consulting project, or as we're solving different challenges in life, and go out, document those, solve those, and then disseminate that knowledge across your team so you can build that intrinsic knowledge.
Yeah. Well, you gotta collect it, and you already took it to the second step of you got to actually implement what you collect, but it's so hard to get people to collect data effectively. And so, paying attention to the things that matter.
We see a lot of things now. You probably read them. Your listeners probably read them about it's okay to fail. Failure is part of it. I think that's somewhat of a newer trend that people are willing to talk about. You and I both have had our own shares. Everyone has. I remind my team of that constantly. We make charcuterie boards and boxes here at Graze Craze, and we often remind ourselves that we're the only ones internally that know what the large gone grazy board has on it and should have on it and what it should look like. So it's okay to substitute a BlackBerry. It's okay to have a mistake and have to redo a board. We have to go through some of those failures so we can standardize and build the ultimate product for our customer and then grow our business and be profitable.
Yep. And you gotta know that you put the BlackBerry on by accident or on purpose, rather than just having random stuff fall onto the board.
Very true. And that goes to another step that we've all learned. It comes down to your team.
Yeah.
No matter if I'm running one Graze Craze or I'm that serial entrepreneur running multiple businesses, I have to have a team in place that I've trained, empowered, developed the standard operating procedures so we can hold ourselves accountable, or we can perform.
Yep. So if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, Mark, I work for a mega corp. I'm a big cog in the corporate machine, and I'm thinking about starting my own business," how do you respond to those people?
I smile, I sit down, and I say, "Tell me why. What is your why? What is it that you're wanting to accomplish or wanting to fulfill within yourself that's not being fulfilled today?"
Right.
Is it a product? Hey, Matt, to your point, hey, Mark, I work for a manufacturer. I see a miss in the market. So I have a unique opportunity to go out and build a new product or something. Or I want my own independence. So I oftentimes challenge them. Can you fulfill this role as an entrepreneur versus an entrepreneur?
Right.
So I understand what is it they're wanting to see and what is it they're wanting to fulfill. Because oftentimes people make potentially erroneous assumptions that owning your own business works a certain way or operates a certain way. And I want to make sure they understand there are fantastic rewards and opportunities, but there's also risk, time, diligence, and challenges with operating your own business as well.
Yeah, you got to be comfortable with the risk thing. The risk thing is different when you're not getting the paycheck.
It is. You learn the term working capital personally very, very quickly.
Yeah, my standard question is, hey, if you need a stapler right now, how do you get it? And usually they're like, "Oh, I fill out a form. It's on my desk the next day." And I'm like, how about this? You run to Staples and figure out whether or not they have a stapler and buy it for yourself. If you can do that, you'll probably make it. So
that's right.
Yeah. All right. From a startup lesson, when you think back to starting Haubry Consulting, or what was your first venture that you did on your own?
My very first venture, I was a young high school lad, so that would go way back.
Yeah.
An early mentor of mine came over and told me one day when I was working for another company, "Mark, you have a tremendous work ethic and effort. You should be working for yourself." I didn't know what that meant. I sat down with him and he encouraged me to go out on my own. And so I did. The summer between my senior year in high school and my freshman year in college, I started my first business. I was cleaning people's cottages and preparing them. So when I lived in a tourist area. So when people would come into the tourist area, I was the one that prepped their boat, prepped their cottage, cut their grass, and had their their lake environment ready for them. That goes way back though.
So, well, but if you think about that first business, is there anything that if you had known it then would have made it more successful?
I think one of the things, thinking of that business and current businesses as well, that would make that more successful is really understanding and putting a dollar amount on the value of the services you're bringing. It's very easy to naturally think of yourself as an hourly self-employed person versus understanding who's my customer, what's the value I'm bringing to my customer, and then what's my customer willing to pay for that, and how do I monetize that?
Yes, that is so pricing in any business is so challenging because people try to sell out of their own pocket, meaning they go, well, I could charge this, but that's a lot of money to me, so I'll charge a little bit less.
Right.
And, we have people that go out of their way to I had one client who walked me through the logical progression he went through to take a quote from $11,780 down to $9,995 without negotiating with his client.
Interesting. It's an interesting approach.
And I'm like, okay, so you think that you're going to be worth it at $9,900, but what do you do when the prospect says, oh, well, if you're going to start there, let's go lower. Why wouldn't you just start at full price?
Right.
Because, it just seems like a lot. And it was all him. So yeah, pricing's a big thing.
And it's always a challenge. I think then the other piece, going across more of a financial perspective is, and we hinted on to it earlier, is working capital, right? Really, really appreciate. I'm an optimist at heart. And when you think of a startup, I, like probably many other people, hey, we're going to have X amount of sales. It's going to be very well received. But the need and energy to market, the need and energy to gain exposure to your brand, the working capital that takes, as well as the working capital reserves you need as that gains exposure and begins to ramp up. And you can, I'm a reader. When you read the Nike story, when you read some of these other success stories, you can see the challenges many organizations deal with that, and being able to take some of those learnings and apply it to your own environment.
Yes. Yep. Well, and the rule is whatever you think it's going to cost, it'll be double. And however long you think it'll take, it's also going to be double. So the plan that you lay out has to account for double and double. And most people are optimists. That's why they go into business. And their plan is, no, this time will be different. It will all work out for me.
It'll all work out. And it won't. It might long term, but it won't initially. And that's another great lesson, Matt, that there are, in any business, and any small business owner will tell you, there are many, many bumps in the road. So being able to let some of those bumps roll off of you, and at the same time be a lifelong learner. So as they roll off, you learn from those, you transition that information, you do something with it with your team, and you don't carry it home with you every night. Yeah.
All right. Any final lessons that you would give to somebody who is starting a business, thinking about starting a business, new at this?
Leverage your network. Talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, talk to the people that you don't think are friends and colleagues. It doesn't mean you have to tell them your entire idea, but share with those that have that dinner table group of people, that group of trusted advisors, and listen to their feedback. They're smart. They might not be right, but being able to take a nugget or two out of each one of those conversations and apply it to your business plan, make an adjustment, making a tweak, can save you 2 months and thousands of dollars very easily.
Very, very true. All right. Hey, before we go, I'm going to remind the listeners that you can find information about Mark and his businesses and contacts at defaultprofitable.com. Also, 3 ways you can help the podcast. Leave us a rating or a review wherever you're listening. Hit subscribe or share an episode. Now, those are the 3 things that you can do. And finally, Mark, thanks for being a guest.
Thank you, Matt. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for all the listeners listening in today.
Yep. And we'll be back next week with the next episode. Until then, stay focused, keep working, stay profitable.